I like to just say hi, Cherionna. It's good to see you. We've known each other for 20, 30 years, maybe
Maybe more
30.
than years. I was thinking about that.
And so, by way of introduction, you and I were in William Emerson's classes years and years ago, and then you sort of began to explore other mentors, right? You were with Ray for a while, and obviously with Franklin. How about telling us a little bit about that, your own personal journey through your curiosity about yourself and who you are and how you got to be the way you are and everything. How did that go for you?
Yeah, that's a lovely starting point. And yeah, curious person. So, as Alice in Wonderland would say, curiouser and curiouser. So, maybe I'll just preface it by saying I started getting interested in pre and perinatal experience um, before I met you when I was doing body work in Vancouver. And I think within a week, I had two different male clients who were, I'm a little over 5 feet. They were well over 6 feet. Each of them birthed themselves off my treatment table. And, you know, they and we knew what was going on. It wasn't expected, it wasn't planned. I'd never seen anything like that before. But um, one of them decided I was a midwife of the soul, which I thought was a nice term.
Oh,
And so I was intrigued. And it wasn't too long after that that I moved to Boulder to go to Naropa and study somatic psychotherapy, dance movement psychotherapy. And so that was in 93, and it was in the summer after that. So 94, I did a workshop with William. I don't think you were there. I don't remember.
I
But
can't remember either.
it kind of blew me away. And then in our next year, we had a course called Birth and Death in Body Centered Psychotherapy. And I remember sitting in that course and going, this is it. This is my thing. And my main teacher who developed the program there, Christine Caldwell, had just completed her PhD in, I think, in somatic psychology, which she did through the Union Institute. She, created her own program. And um, I'd never even planned to go to graduate school, but here I am working my master's. And suddenly it just came to me, I have to get a PhD in pre and perinatal psychology. They didn't exist. They still don't exist. Um, did for a short time, but there have been various attempts. But um, I ended up also going to the Union Institute, um, and where I could create my own program. And I think my intuition knew I needed to do that because I had a lot of healing to do. And that gave me a format for doing it, a structure for doing it. And as part of that, I continued studying with William and um, did several trainings with him where I met you and a lot. And and I got him to actually give me a certificate for completing the stage 1 training.
One of the few certificates from Emerson Training Center.
First one he actually gave out, and I needed it because it was in my curriculum that I had this.
Uh,
I had to go there. I wouldn't get a PhD, so he agreed. Um, so, dear William, um, so as part of that program, I also became very passionate about embryology. And it
mm,
seemed to me that if I wanted to learn about prenatal psychology, I needed to look at the body and how it develops. Because as little ones, we're not really, we're never separate from our bodies. The little ones are busy thinking about everything, um, they, they develop a psyche as their body is developing. And so to me, it seemed like I need to understand one, I needed to understand the other. They were intrinsically linked. So, but being a somatic person, I created a somatic way to study that. And that was influenced by a body mind centering, body mind psychotherapy training that I had taken. Um, and had also been part of our master's program to some degree. I took a separate 2-year training in that. So what I did was I gathered a group of us who had taken this 2-year training in body mind psychotherapy. And part of what body mind psychotherapy does is it looks at different stages of development and how we can embody them, well, how we can move them. And so I got a study group together with graduates from that course. And I don't remember how long it was, 6 or 8 weeks. Once a week, I would manage to read these embryology textbooks. They're not exactly in English. They're in medicalese. They're really hard to read. And I'd pore over them. And the only way I could make sense of them was to make mind maps and draw pictures and move my body. And so I wanted to be clear enough that I could teach it, right? And then I'd present the material to our group, and then we together would find ways to act it out through and move it through our bodies. It was really fascinating. All of us felt like that needed to continue when it finished. So then I began teaching it as as workshops, and so I did that for a number of years, and was also in between all that, I was also studying craniosacral therapy. I had done craniosacral therapy, but when I moved to Boulder, I heard about biodynamic craniosacral therapy. And um, I also became friends with John and Anna Chitty.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking the biodynamic training with, and then assisting and really studying quite intensively with. And so that added a whole other dimension to my understanding. And I actually took the training because I had decided to take Ray Castellino's training, and he required that you have at least a 5-day introductory seminar in biodynamics. And John Chitty kept offering them, and then he would cancel them. So finally, I thought, why don't I just take the training? I want to take it anyways. So I did, and um, I went to. I took a workshop with Ray, and that was shortly before I was invited to teach at the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute, which opened in Santa Barbara where Ray lived. And SBGI, as it's fondly known,
Mm-hmm.
their only programs were in my 2 areas of specialty, somatic psychology and pre and perinatal psychology. And it was like my dream come true. So I gave up my whole wonderful life in Boulder, and I up and left and moved to Santa Barbara, and started working really intensively with Ray. And um, that added a whole other dimension to how I worked, and really deepened my healing, my own pre and perinatal history. And then I got to Emily Conrad and Continuum. And I ended up, after trying to drive back and forth between Santa Barbara and Santa Monica, where she was, after having promised myself I'd never drive on the freeways in California.
Well, the 101 gets pretty nasty the closer you get to LA.
Yeah. So, the classes started at 8 a.m. and I would go at 5, and then I'd sleep in my car for an hour, so to miss some of the traffic. But, oh, the healing with Emily was so profound. And I feel like it infuses everything I do. And it really not only complemented everything I had already done,
Mm-hmm.
but and brought in other dimensions in a way. But I realized that I didn't need to teach embryology the way I had been. That continuum just naturally takes us into embryonic states where we can experience directly um, that what that time could be like, and do it in a very healing way.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I've continued with kind of combining those things, um, and have developed a
Must
training.
have been interesting when you met. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Yup. I met Yup through
John
Yup
and Anna. Oh,
through John and Anna.
mm,
Um, I call him Yup Wonderful. Um, he
cute.
corrected me once and said, "No, no, it's Wonderful." And I said, "I know, but I call you Wonderful." He's like, "Oh." Um, so yeah, I remember sitting in his class. It was one of the first classes he did in Boulder and
Hmm.
workshop, and I was just like, yes, 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 finally.
Yeah.
um, I had been exposed to Blechschmidt because that's,
Hmm.
Blechschmidt is involved in
Hmm.
academics. But Yap's an amazing storyteller, as I'm sure you know, and the way he
Charming.
communicates it. So yeah, he actually wrote well, one of the two forwards for my
Yeah, I saw that. Hmm.
book Spirit and Form. So yeah, I'm grateful for all these brilliant people I've had.
You really meandered through a lot of juicy stuff, didn't you? Just kind of collecting everything you needed and wanted. Good for you. It's so nice that you wanted to share. Also, it really shows in your book that you care about how people feel when they read the book, and you're careful with them when you think invite them to do some reflecting and so forth. It's really sweet.
Mm,
Um,
thank you. That's
so
really important to me.
yeah, of course, yeah, and it's clear in the book. Yeah, I think one of my questions was who, like, kind of these are kind of together, but who were you wanting to reach, and what made you want to write the book the way it is?
Well, the book actually emerged out of, I think it's the last chapter in my previous book, Spirit and Form, which is about shadow. And when I was writing that, I thought, wow, I could say a lot about this. This is important. So then this book started evolving. And yeah, I'm a very intuitive person. I just feel like I receive the writing. So it's not like I sit down and go, oh, who's going to, you know, benefit from this? But I assume people will benefit from it, hope that. But um, I I think that it can really reach a lot of practitioners of various kinds, and I hope that people who work with body work, like I have, craniosacral therapy and osteopathy, like I have a lot of enthusiasm from that world. Psychotherapists, I'm getting a lot of psychotherapists now coming to my trainings. They're opening up to it a lot.
Mhm.
Doctors, nurses, midwives, doulas, birth assistants, people involved in birth and children. The people, not necessarily the children reading it, but the parents, the teachers, whoever's being with children, um, so that they can support them in this territory. So that's a wide audience. And,
Mhm.
the cheeky part of me wants to say, well, could also be beneficial for anyone who's been born. We've all been through it. And my intention in the book is to awaken awareness. And awareness is the first step of healing.
Mhm.
So, if we're not aware of something, we won't try to heal it.
Right.
With awareness, we can begin the journey. So, I don't know that it will appeal to everybody, but I don't know that anything appeals to everybody. But, my hope is that it might at least stimulate curiosity for people, make lead people to wonder. That's why there are a lot of questions in the book for inquiry.
Hmm. Yeah.
Happened to me.
Um, you mentioned doctors and midwives and doulas and obstetricians. They're they're really the people kind of on the front lines in the birth world. And I'm curious about you also talk a lot about how I would guess call it the annihilative aspect of the masculine or the power obsessed aspect of the masculine, how that sort of hijacked a lot of feminine, mm, you know, the clearly valid and important and normal relationship with the feminine, with birth and giving birth. So there's kind of got a double question here. Like, how can how can you invite the masculine to wake up, or do we just give up on them and preach to the choir, or to the men who are already curious, or to the men who are already kind of in our world? Or is there a way to get through to the men and women, in the other kind of medical, rigid, allopathic world?
Right. I hope so. And I just want to begin by clarifying and say masculine doesn't mean men. We all have masculine, we all have feminine.
I see. Okay. So when you say the masculine, you're not talking about only men.
No. And I think in the book I explain quite a few times, qualities of like masculine qualities are things that tend to be related to the right brain, whereas the feminine or feminine qualities tend to be related to
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I got that backwards. Feminine
Yeah.
tends to be related to the right brain. Masculine tends to be related to the left brain. So the
But stage
masculine,
two trauma coming back to haunt you.
uh, which brain? That's it. Um, but see, I have a different relationship to it now than I did, right? I have the
Oh, I can
awareness.
see that. Yeah, I can remember actually, what was it? Oh, well, I don't want to get sidetracked about seeing you
Okay,
curl
stop
up
me
in the
where.
fetal position and floating, but let's
So, but just to answer the question,
yeah, okay.
so masculine qualities include things like analyzing. These are all useful qualities, right? Analyzing, being more linear, separating things out, into compartments, putting things in boxes. um, could include, because there's separation, it could include judgment. So that's different from me. That's different from that. Again, not necessarily bad qualities, whatever bad means, but it's separative. Whereas the feminine is inclusive, it's about wholeness, it's about relationship. What's the relationship between this and this? How are they connected? What's the space between them? Which is what little ones need. Little ones are incredibly relational. Right? So that's what I'm talking about with masculine. And I think, men and women both have both. I know that. I think males tend to be encouraged to, often, not always, but tend in our modern Western world, tend more to be encouraged towards the masculine. And women often are also encouraged more toward the masculine. If you want to do well in school, for example, you know, it's not going to work to just be intuitive and receptive, which are feminine qualities. You have to be able to define things and analyze things and all that. And those are important qualities. But basically, what I'm saying in the book is that they've been dominating our world for quite a while since industrialization. And at that point, men came in and took over birth. I mean, actually, was men. And could I just share a quote from the book? Because
Yeah, sure, of course.
I was thinking, I love this guy. I mentioned I watched an interview with Dr. Ricardo Jones, who's an obstetrician in Brazil. And it's on YouTube. It's available. I think I give the link in the book, actually. Um, and so I don't know if you know, in Brazil, apparently cesarean rates are sky high because it's fashionable. They even have cesarean parties. I don't know if you've seen the YouTubes about that. It's like amazing, um, not in a wonderful way.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't get me started.
so they're having the cesarean in that room. There's a window, and on this side, there's a big party going on with all the friends and family. And when the baby has been pulled out, they bring it to the window to show people. It's like that to me is the masculine in action. Okay, that's not a feminine way of receiving a baby, right?
Mm.
And there's nothing much natural about it. So what he says, I've got it on my screen here. Um, so well, what I wrote is he explained that doctors go to medical school because they want to intervene through surgeries and so on, because, quote unquote, from him, met because medicine has this masculine, this phallic drive to intervene and penetrate. And midwifery is the opposite. He worked with midwives, which was at that time unheard of in
Mm.
Brazil. It's to accommodate, is to respect physiology, is to understand the importance for the proper time of things to happen. Uh, So, doctors,
God bless him, man. That's just provokes a whole world of concern that we carry about what's not going on in the delivery rooms, right? And one of the things you just mentioned that seems so important is that he said it's about time. It's about time, giving nature time to work.
yes, and
And
listening deeply, being receptive,
mhm.
rather than trying to fix it or be in control, which are the masculine qualities.